All right. Welcome to another narration of mine. Settle in for a moment. This is where the voices I carry meet the version of the truth most people avoid, and where the things we uncover tend to stay with us long after the story ends. Only the brave souls and the fearless ones stay until the end. I've written stories online before, but nothing like this. And honestly, I don't even know how to format something this messed up without sounding dramatic. I'll just tell it exactly how it happened, in the same plain voice I use when talking to my friends. No spooky phrasing, no trying to sound scary. Just what I saw, what I heard, and what I lived through. Because I was the one who found him. The man kept in a basement for 2 straight years. And the thing that kept him there wasn't human. I swear on everything I care about, if whoever reads this ever hikes alone, camps alone, or lives anywhere near open land, pay attention. Because I almost ignored the signs, too. How it started. I live in northern Arizona, outside Winslow, where you can drive 20 minutes in any direction and not see a single house. I work odd jobs, deliveries, repairs, roadside help, so I spend a lot of time on back roads that don't even have names. One night, I got a call from a guy I didn't recognize, asking if I could tow his broken-down truck from an old dirt road near the canyon line. He sounded weird, whispery, like he was out of breath, but trying not to show it. I asked the usual stuff: make, model, location. He only repeated, "Take the dirt road until the ground dips. I'll leave a lantern." That was it. No name, no truck details, just that. I should have hung up, but I needed the cash. And honestly, strange calls aren't unusual when you work this kind of job. So I drove out. It was around 11 p.m., cold enough that every breath felt like inhaling needles. I kept waiting to see headlights or a stranded truck. Instead, I saw a single lantern lying on the dirt, still flickering, like someone had rushed off and dropped it. There was no truck, no skid marks, no footprints, just the lantern and a smell in the air like wet fur. I should have turned around. But there was something else. A noise that wasn't the wind. A soft, dragging sound coming from further down the dip, where the darkness seemed thicker. I yelled out. Nothing. Yelled again. Still nothing. But the dragging sound stopped the second my voice echoed. I don't know why I kept walking. Maybe curiosity? Maybe instinct? Maybe I thought someone was actually hurt. I followed the sound toward an old farmhouse I'd never seen before, even though I've driven that area 100 times. No lights, no cars, just a silhouette in the middle of nowhere with a sagging roof and boarded windows. The front door was cracked open, and the moment I stepped closer, I heard it. A voice. A man's voice. Quiet. Broken. struggling to get each word out. Down here, please. The basement. I found the basement door, half hidden behind a sheet of plywood. Someone had been using heavy chains to keep it shut. Chains that weren't broken, but unhooked. Like something strong and smart had taken the time to open them. The second I moved the plywood, the smell hit me. Not death, not rot. Something worse. Like an animal that sleeps inside its own food. I didn't want to go down there. Every sense in my body told me not to. But the man's voice came again, louder this time. Please, please, don't let it come back. So I went. The basement steps were narrow and steep. No railing, just wooden stairs sinking into pitch dark. I had my phone light, but it barely helped. Halfway down, I heard movement. Not footsteps, more like shifting weight. Someone curled up or tied down, breathing heavy through their nose. Then I saw him. A man sitting on the floor with his back against the wall, legs pulled up, wrists bound with leather straps that looked old and cracked. His beard was down past his chest, his hair uneven, like he'd been trying to cut it with whatever he could. His clothes were shredded. His skin, I'll never forget his skin. It looked rubbed raw in places, like something dragged him around by hand. But he wasn't dying. He was alive. Barely. He looked at me like I wasn't real. People don't come here, he whispered. I told him I was here to help, that someone called me. His eyes widened in the way people do when they're remembering a nightmare they're still trapped in. It wasn't him, he said. It mimics. You shouldn't be here. My stomach tightened. That smell in the air felt heavier now, like whatever caused it was close. I asked him who did this to him. He didn't say a name, just one word. Skinwalker. People in this region say that word all the time, usually in jokes or stories told around a campfire. I never believed any of it, but the way he said it didn't sound like superstition. It sounded like trauma. It kept me alive, he continued. Not to be kind, not for company. It likes when I scream. It likes when I beg. It keeps me alive because it wants me alive. I didn't know what to say. I just looked around the basement, and that's when I realized something even worse. There were scratch marks on the walls. Hundreds. Deep ones. Some looked human. Some looked like they were made by something with claws. Fresh ones. He whispered, "If you hear it, breathe. Hide." The return. I was working on the straps when I heard something outside. Not footsteps, not an animal. Just weight shifting on dirt. Heavy, slow, deliberate. The man's entire body locked up. He grabbed my sleeve with shaking fingers. "You can't run," he whispered. "It hears everything." My heart started pounding so hard, I thought it would echo off the walls. I turned off my phone flashlight, and we both sat in the dark, barely breathing. Then, the basement door above us creaked. Not fast, not loud, just enough to let something slip inside. The smell hit stronger, like a wet animal that hadn't eaten properly in months. The man pressed his forehead against the floor, like he thought staying low might save him. I didn't move. Something stepped onto the top stair. Then another. Then another. Slow. Confident. Like it knew we were there and enjoyed the anticipation. I held my breath until my chest felt like it would burst. The man's nails dug into my arm. Whatever was coming down those steps was tall. The way the air shifted told me that. And the breathing. It wasn't human breathing. It was too steady, too controlled, like someone pretending to breathe, but not needing to. That was the moment I knew the man wasn't lying. Something else lived in this house. Something that had kept him alive for 2 full years. And now it knew I was here too. The final thing I saw, before the shape reached the bottom step, was a long, thin shadow stretching across the floor toward us. Not the shadow of any animal I've ever seen, and definitely not a person. The shadow hit the concrete first, wide at the top, narrow at the bottom, not shaped like a person, not shaped like any animal that walks on 4 legs. It stretched toward us like it was reaching before the body even followed. The man, digging his nails into my arm, leaned close to my ear and whispered, barely audible, "Don't move. Don't react. Don't even breathe too hard. That's how it picks who it grabs first." He sounded like someone who had learned this through trial and error, the kind where the error means losing pieces of yourself. The thing's footsteps were slow coming down the last steps, like it wanted to drag out every second. Every time it placed weight on the wood, the whole staircase groaned in a low, drawn-out way. Not like the wood was weak, like the force on it was heavier than anything that should be walking on 2 legs. When it reached the bottom, I realized something that made my stomach twist. It wasn't walking normally. Its feet, if they were feet, didn't hit the ground evenly. It stepped like something wearing the shape of a human, but not used to it. Like each movement was copied instead of natural. Too slow. Too deliberate. Like it was thinking through the process of pretending to walk. There was no light to see its full form, but my eyes adjusted enough to catch the outline of something tall, taller than the basement ceiling by a little, so it had to hunch. The man beside me pressed his face against the ground like he was trying to disappear into it. I could feel him shaking. Not little shakes. Full body, trembling, like he was freezing, and terrified all at once. The thing made a sound I can only describe as someone imitating a human breath without lungs. A long inhale, then a rough exhale. Practiced. Wrong. Not needed. It wasn't trying to breathe. It was listening. The search. The creature took a slow step deeper into the basement, then another. The floor shifted softly each time, and I swear I felt it through my hands where they were pressed into the ground, like the weight carried a vibration. The man whispered again, his voice cracking. It can smell movement, not scent, movement. I had no idea what he meant until the creature turned its head, or whatever served as its head, toward the opposite side of the basement. A place neither of us were near. There was nothing there. No sound. No movement. Just empty floor. But the creature started walking toward that spot anyway. I understood then. It didn't track us by smell or sight. It tracked us by the way the air shifted around our bodies, even if we were totally still. Whatever was on the other side of the basement, maybe just old pipes, a piece of fabric, something dangling, but it smelled. It moved. The creature stopped in front of that empty space and leaned down. I couldn't see its face, but I saw its outline flatten against the far wall like a shadow peeling from the surface. Then, with a single, sudden motion, it struck the floor. A loud, wet smack echoed through the basement, like it crushed something soft, even though nothing was there. It hit the concrete again and again, hard enough that dust fell from the ceiling onto my head. The man didn't even flinch. He'd learned long ago not to react. I copied him. After the third strike, the creature went silent. Then, slowly, painfully slowly, it lifted its head. Even in the dark, I could feel its attention shift toward us. Not because we moved, but because we didn't. Something about total stillness confused it, or maybe made it curious. I felt its presence like heat on my skin. No exaggeration. Like someone pressing a warm hand against the back of my neck without touching me. It took a step toward us, then another. I closed my eyes because I couldn't handle looking at its shape anymore. I could hear its weight, feel the air pressure change when it leaned in. The breathing sound got closer until it was right above me. I thought that was it. I thought it would grab my leg and tear something or drag me off. Instead, it leaned closer to the man. He started shaking harder, like his whole body was going to break from the inside. The creature inhaled next to his face, slow, dragging, like sniffing for fear. I don't know how he stayed silent. He whispered something so soft, I almost missed it. Please, not again. And that's when I realized the creature wasn't angry. It was choosing. The choice. Its hand touched the floor beside us. At least, I think it was a hand. Long fingers. Too long. Joints in the wrong places. Each finger touched the ground individually, like someone testing out a new set of limbs. The hand dragged toward the man's leg, then paused. Then it turned toward my leg. I forced myself not to move. It tapped my ankle lightly. A quick, testing tap, like checking if I was awake or alive. The man beside me dug his nails deeper into my arm and whispered, "Don't pull away. Don't. Don't." The creature tapped me again, harder this time, testing again. Then it leaned in close enough that I swear I felt something brush my cheek. Not skin, not fur. Something between, like rough fabric soaked in sweat. It breathed again. This time I heard something under the breath. A sound like a person trying to talk while dragging their voice across gravel. It said something, quiet, distorted. But I recognized the tone. It was imitating a voice, trying to repeat a sound it had heard before. A human word. It came out broken, like a throat ripping open to force it. Who? Me? Home. Or something like it. It pulled back, stood up, turned toward the stairs. It waited there, silently, for almost a full minute, like it was expecting me to follow, like it wanted me upstairs. Then, with a slow tilt of its head, it stepped back up the stairs and disappeared. The man beside me didn't breathe normally for nearly a minute. When the creature was finally gone, he whispered, "You need to leave." I told him I wasn't leaving without him. He shook his head. "You don't understand. It left the door open on purpose. For you, not for me. I'm not supposed to go anywhere." He looked me in the eyes then, for the first time, and said something that chilled me more than anything else that night. "It let you come in. It wants you here. It doesn't bring new people home very often." When the creature finally left, the air in that basement felt lighter, but not safe. More like we were sitting inside the last few minutes of someone else's break. And the man down there, he wasn't relieved. He didn't act like he'd survived something. He acted like he'd just been added to someone's list again. He sat there, breathing shallow, staring at the stairs, as if the thing could come back any second. I whispered, "We need to move while it's upstairs." He shook his head so fast he looked sick. "It doesn't sleep," he said. "It waits. That's different." No emotion in his voice, just empty facts learned over 2 years of survival. I checked the straps on his wrists again, not repeating anything. But these weren't normal straps. Up close, the texture was wrong. Thick leather, but not off a belt. More like someone cut strips off something larger. Something that used to be alive. A smell came off them that made my stomach tighten. Old sweat, soaked deep into the material. "You can't take those off," he whispered. I tried. "It hears the tension." I didn't understand. He explained while staring straight ahead. "If you stretch the leather, even a little, it knows. It knows the sound of it. It comes down right away." I froze with my fingers still under the strap. "What about when it hurts you? The straps must pull then." "That's the point," he said quietly. "It wants me restrained. It wants me still. If I fight it, if I tense up, It punishes that. If I stay still, it leaves, punishes. He said that like it was normal. I asked him how many times he had tried taking them off. He looked down at his wrists. The first year, he said. Every day. Then he added something I'll never forget. It doesn't need tools. It uses its hands. And it learns fast. The upstairs. Sounds. We both sat silent for maybe 3 minutes before the noise started above us. Not walking. Not dragging. Something else. Heavy thumps against the floorboards, repeating, steady, like it was dropping its weight from small heights, testing the structure, or testing how sound travels between levels. The man swallowed hard. That means it's hunting inside the house, not for food, for noise. I whispered, "Noise?" He nodded. If it hears anything that isn't supposed to be there, it investigates. That's how it found me the first week. I sneezed. That's simple. A sneeze. One human noise. And the creature knew he was there. "How did you even get in this house?" I whispered. His eyes flicked toward the far corner, a place I hadn't noticed before. A drain pipe, wide, broken at the bottom, surrounded by older scratch marks that looked human. "I crawled inside to hide during a storm," he said. "It dragged me out." I couldn't respond to that. Above us, something slammed against the wall. Then another slam, harder. Then something that sounded like a cabinet being ripped open. The creature wasn't looking for us. It already knew where we were. This was something else. A pattern, some routine it had. And that terrified the man next to me more than anything. He whispered, "When it searches the house like this, it means it expects to use me soon." Use? Not kill? Not feed? Use. That word hit differently. Planning an escape. The sounds upstairs didn't stop. They only changed. Furniture scraping, boards cracking, cabinets slamming. I wasn't waiting around. I whispered to him, "I'm getting you out of here, even if it comes down those stairs." He didn't answer right away. He just stared at me with a mix of disbelief and something like anger. "You don't get it," he said. "You think it's just some animal that got lucky? It's not." I stayed quiet. He continued. "It learns people. It learns their voices, their habits, their reactions. It mimics them until it knows what scares them most." Then he added, "And the worst part? It doesn't mimic to trick you. It mimics because it enjoys practicing." My skin crawled, but I wasn't giving up. I looked at the leather on his wrist again, studying it. When he moved slightly, I heard a tiny crack from one of the holes. A dry spot. Weak. I whispered, "That part will tear." He froze. "You can't." I cut him off. "If we do it slow, if we don't stretch it too much at once, maybe it won't hear." He stared at me for a long time, then said, You don't know what happens when it notices. I whispered back, then let's make sure it doesn't. Breaking the strap. I moved my fingers to the weakest part and started nudging the leather just enough to soften it. Tiny motions, barely touching, quiet as possible. The man's breathing hitched every time he felt it move, but not from pain, from fear. Above us, the creature dragged something across the floor. Something heavy. Too heavy for one person. Maybe furniture. Maybe something else. We ignored it. I kept working. Little by little, the leather weakened. It felt warm from the friction. I could feel the fibers loosening. Then something changed. The sounds upstairs stopped. The silence hit the basement like a weight. The man's eyes widened. "That's bad," he whispered. "That's when it listens." I froze instantly. Upstairs. Nothing. No footsteps, no breathing imitation, no dragging, just stillness. Then, a floorboard creaked. But it didn't sound like weight. It sounded like the creature lowered itself onto all fours. The man whispered one more thing. "It knows something changed." I whispered, "Then we move now." I grabbed the strap and pulled. Not hard, just enough to snap the weakened part. It made a soft, tearing sound, like ripping an old glove. Small, but not silent. Above us, the creature made a sound I can only describe as a harsh inhale, like someone smelling blood for the first time in days. Then, fast, heavy footsteps heading straight for the basement door. The man whispered, "Run, forget me. It wants you now." I grabbed his arm. "No, we go together." The footsteps hit the basement stairs. Hard. Fast. Every step shaking dust loose. I pulled him toward the opposite corner, the drain pipe. His legs were weak, almost useless after years down here. But adrenaline is a powerful thing. Behind us, the basement door slammed open so hard it cracked. The creature started descending. Not slow, not curious, hungry. We didn't make it to the pipe. By the time we got across the room, I swear I could feel the heat of that thing breathing down my neck, or whatever it used to breathe. I didn't look back. I didn't want to see its hands reaching. I didn't want to know how close it was. The man was stumbling hard. His legs buckled under him, and I had to grab his arm to keep him upright. Years in that basement had wrecked his muscles. He was all bones and trauma. I could feel how brittle he was, even through his shirt. The pipe opening was small, not wide enough for both of us to crawl through together. He knew that, and he didn't even hesitate. He shoved me toward it with what little strength he had left and said one word, "Go." I didn't argue. I didn't get dramatic. I just grabbed the edge and slid in, feet first. Behind me, I heard the creature drop off the stairs, all four limbs hitting the floor at once, like some oversized dog crashing down. Then came that noise again. The voice it tried to use. This time louder, clearer. "Don't go." But the tone was off, like someone repeating a phrase they didn't understand, almost playful. I started crawling. The pipe was narrow, rusted inside, filled with debris. My clothes snagged on metal edges, my elbows scraped raw, trying to push forward. But I kept going. I didn't care what was ahead. Anything was better than being in that basement with it. I made it maybe 5 feet in before I heard it lunge. Not walk, not run. Lunge. Something slammed the pipe behind me. Hard. A clang that echoed straight into my chest. I stopped breathing for a second. Then I heard the scream. Not from the creature, from the man. It wasn't a pain scream. It wasn't begging. It was something else. Something like anger mixed with acceptance. And then silence. The crawl. I kept crawling. The pipe stretched longer than I expected, maybe 20 feet before I hit a section where it turned up. A vertical shaft with rusted rebar and old roots snaking through. The air stank of soil and metal. But up ahead, there was light. Faint. Moonlight, maybe. Or a porch light from some back shed. It didn't matter. I climbed. My hands were bleeding by the time I got out. When I pulled myself free and stood up, I realized I was behind the house. The pipe led out from the back crawl space, hidden under old boards and trash. I scanned the area. No lights in the windows, no sound from inside, and no sign of the man. I wanted to go back for him, but the back door was wide open, too wide, like something opened it just enough to watch from the shadows. I turned and ran. Aftermath. I didn't stop until I reached my truck. It was right where I left it, except the door was open and the keys were gone. Someone, or something, had gone through my stuff. My wallet was missing. My phone, too. But not stolen. Taken. Deliberately. Like someone was collecting things I touched. I stood there frozen, trying to decide whether to scream or just collapse. Then I saw something tucked under the windshield wiper. A strip of fabric. Same leather as the basement straps. Same smell. But this piece had my name scratched into it. Not printed. Not written. Scratched. With something sharp. That's when I realized it hadn't just let me leave. It had sent me. I made a choice. I drove home in silence in a stranger's car, an old work truck that someone had abandoned nearby. No license plate, empty gas tank, no gear in the back, like it was parked there for me. Just one more part of the routine. I kept replaying the last look that man gave me. Not fear, not relief, just calm. The look of someone who finally knew what they were. And the worst part? I get it now. He was kept alive, not for food, not for torture, for companionship. That creature didn't want him dead. It wanted someone to understand it, to hear it practice, to see it mimic, to be impressed when it got the words right. It had spent 2 years studying that man, not because it needed him, but because it liked having a toy that screamed and cried and begged. Now, it wants a new one. My life. Since I've moved 3 times, each time a piece of mail shows up with my name and no return address, blank paper inside. But when I hold it up to the light, smudged outlines, scratches, like someone pressing their finger over and over in the same shape until the skin left an imprint. I haven't slept properly in weeks. I dream of the basement, the stairs, that sound it made when it practiced human words. I thought I escaped, but I didn't. I was recruited, and I think it's just waiting to see how long I last before it brings me home again. I didn't go back to that house. I'm not brave. I'm not a hero. I didn't even call the police because I knew exactly how that would go. They'd look around, see nothing, tell me the house was abandoned for decades, and chalk everything up to stress. But something changed about 2 weeks after I ran. It didn't stalk me the way I expected. No creature scratching at windows, no footsteps at night, no growling outside the door. It didn't show up physically at all. Instead, it started acting like it wanted to live in my life. Little by little, it slid itself into my routine. Not with attacks, not with threats, with presence. Signs. It wanted me back. The first thing it did was mess with my food. 3 mornings in a row, I woke up to find the fridge door open. Nothing missing, but everything moved. Expiration dates facing forward, labels perfectly lined up, my leftovers stacked like someone enjoyed organizing them. Then it got bolder. One day, I opened my pantry and almost fell backwards. Sitting on the shelf, dead center, was a plate. The same kind of plate that was in the basement. Same chipped corner. Same stain baked into the ceramic. And on the plate, a piece of stale bread. Nothing else. Just bread. Like it thought that was normal. Like it thought that's what humans appreciated. The man's voice. I didn't hear the creature directly, but I heard him. The man from the basement. His voice. Not screaming, not begging, talking, calm, almost conversational. Sometimes, in the middle of the night, I'd wake up and hear a muffled voice in the hallway. Exactly his tone, his pacing, even the way he breathed between sentences. Except I could never make out what he was saying. Like it was practicing the rhythm of speech more than the words. The first time I heard it, I thought maybe I was losing it. So I stayed still and listened. The voice got closer, then stopped right outside my bedroom door. And in that familiar voice, the one I last heard in the basement, it said, "You left me." 4 words, clear, precise, and so wrong that it felt like my blood turned cold inside my veins. The breaking point. I tried ignoring it, pretending none of this was happening, pretending maybe it was all stress, and my brain was cracking. But 3 nights later, everything changed. I walked into my living room and found something on the floor, something heavy, wrapped in a blanket, not moving. At first, I thought it was an animal, a dog, a coyote. Something hurt. Then I saw the blanket move in small jerks, like someone underneath was trying to stretch. I pulled it back. It was the man, the same man from the basement. Eyes open, but unfocused, barely breathing, skin pale, like he'd been kept somewhere cold. His hair was shorter, his beard trimmed unevenly, like someone had cleaned him up without knowing how scissors worked. His wrists were raw where the straps used to be. He blinked slowly when he saw me. "You should have gone," he whispered. That confused me. "I did go," I said quietly. He shook his head weakly. "No, you should have gone far. It doesn't like when people leave without learning something." I felt my stomach turn. "What does it want me to learn?" I asked. His breathing hitched, like he was terrified to answer. But he did anyway. "What scares you most?" Then he closed his eyes. And I swear on everything, something exhaled behind me. A sound too close to ignore. Not the man, not air from the vents, not anything natural. It was the creature, standing somewhere in the room, watching, waiting. I didn't turn around. I didn't want to see it in my home. I grabbed the man by the shoulders and dragged him toward the door. He was lighter than he looked. No muscle left at all. I hauled him into my car, slammed the door, and drove to the nearest hospital. I left him at the entrance. I didn't speak to him again. I didn't stay long enough to hear if he said anything else. I just drove away. The final message. That was 6 months ago. I haven't seen the man since. The hospital never contacted me, even though I left my info. They said no one matching his description was admitted. Impossible, unless something came and got him first. I moved again. Different state, different job, different everything. But last week, I came home from work and found something on my kitchen table. A leather strap, old, dried, cracked. But this one wasn't scratched with my name like before. It was scratched with one sentence: "You can learn faster." There was something else under it, a folded piece of paper. Inside was a drawing, crude, childish, like someone using a marker for the first time. It showed a person standing in a basement, and behind that person was a tall shape with long arms and a small head. And in the corner, something written in shaky, uneven letters. Home again, soon. Where I am now, I don't sleep much. Lights stay on, doors locked, I keep my phone on me, even though I know it doesn't matter. Because whatever that thing is, it doesn't break in. It doesn't attack. It doesn't chase. It learns. And now, it's learning me. My routines, my patterns, my habits, my fears. And the worst part? Some nights, I swear I hear the man's voice again. Not outside, not in the hall, but practicing quietly in the corner of my bedroom, repeating the same phrase until it gets the tone perfect. Don't go.